अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य निरञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। जय श्रीमन्नारायण। ॐ हरिः ॐ। Let's go now to speaking a little bit, again, sadly, briefly, about prana and pranayama. Actually, the word pranayama comes from two words. Prana, meaning life force, let's say, and then ayama, which means extension. So together, pranayama, extension of life force. Before we talk about the practice of pranayama, however, let's talk a little bit about what precisely is prana, because it's interesting. Again, like with so many of these terms, many of us have heard this term before, but maybe are not quite clear about what is meant. All right, prana. Prana, again, can be translated as life force, sometimes vitality. It is directly connected to consciousness. And more, this vitality energy is an attribute of consciousness. This is the first thing to understand. It is the extensiveness of consciousness itself. And again, this is a philosophical concept which, if you want, later we can talk more about what precisely is meant by this. But one of the attributes of consciousness is extensiveness, the idea that it has the ability to not be limited to a locus, to just one place, but it has the ability to spread its influence. This is why Atman is the same in each being. Atman is equal, the same for each being, but you can have a living being as small as an ant or a living being as big as an elephant, and they each have Atman. Because that consciousness has the ability to extend its influence. All right, so prana is one specific way in which it has the ability to extend its influence. Prana has several different sources, and again, I'm trying to be brief here. One of these sources is, of course, the air itself. This is where we come specifically to the practices of pranayama. But there are other sources as well. Food is a source. There is vitality in food. That's why we eat food. When you think about food, what is food? Food necessarily, even if we're vegetarians, food necessarily was something that originally had life itself. Again, something that had consciousness. That vitality, that influence of the consciousness is still there in the food, therefore we eat it in order to ourselves have vitality. So there's prana in food, there's prana in air, there's prana in the sun as well. The sun emanates prana. There is prana in our own consciousness, in Atman. There is prana ultimately in Paramatman, in God. Thus there is cosmic prana. Prana as a cosmic concept that is omnipresent. The reason why in the Upanishads it speaks very specifically of prana as being omnipresent everywhere is because indeed God is everywhere. So this is a force. This is an energy that is here in the universe that is responsible for us not only being alive, but having health, having liberty, vitality. Having strength, having all of these important things that we need to function as living beings. All this being said, again, there are several ways in which we can access that prana. The most direct of which is that which we are doing all the time. Breathing. We're not eating all the time. We're not doing other things all the time. We're not bathing in the sun all the time. Again, maybe some of us try, but not a good idea. But we are indeed breathing all the time. Try to stop breathing for about, 5 minutes maybe? Yeah, that's about the maximum. Maybe 10 minutes. You need to breathe. And we are constantly breathing. Constantly. Even when we're sleeping, we're breathing. So this is one of the primary ways in which we get this vital energy. Just a few more words about this energy. Interestingly, this is an energy that is recognized in so many different cultures. Certainly in Sanskrit, it's known as prana, but in Chinese, it's also known as qi. I'm sure many people here know this. It's the same concept. It's the same concept. And then in other cultures, there are different names for this very same idea of harnessing this natural life force that is there all around us such that we maximize our health, we maximize our vitality, but also, very specifically, when cultivating this energy through pranayama in meditation, in a meditative state, the mental benefits are amazing. It increases our ability to concentrate, it increases focus, it increases, quite literally, our expanse of intellect. We become smarter. We become smarter if we know how to, again, access prana in the right way. So, again, this is a very interesting concept, but also something very practical as well. So, pranayama. This is something that we want to focus on very specifically right now. Again, this being the most direct route and something in which really in the practice of pranayama, with the right awareness, we can be cultivating prana really 24 hours a day. Let's focus first on the fundamentals, proper breathing. This is very important. Proper breathing. You've perhaps heard this before, that in modern times especially, and it really has nothing to do with East versus West, it has to do with modern versus traditional cultures and societies. In many traditional cultures and societies, breathing is something radically different from the shallow breathing that we have now. We breathe in a very shallow way for a variety of reasons, the primary one of which is stress. Stress forces the body to reform itself in certain ways such that the breathing tends to become chest dependent and very shallow. Whereas when you don't have stress, of course, what happens? Everything, all of the internal organs, everything becomes relaxed and you can breathe more fully, thus taking more advantage of this natural prana that is there all around us. So first of all, proper breathing. Proper breathing includes several things, including breathing from the belly, and not just the belly. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that you use only the belly. No, you breathe from the belly, but then expand to the totality of your torso. That's one thing that's of importance. The other thing that's of importance is indeed deep breathing. Deep breathing and deep exhalation, both inhalation and exhalation, have to be there. This is something that takes practice. The more we practice this, not uncomfortably so, but consciously trying to breathe in a little bit more deeply than we're accustomed to, trying to exhale the air a little bit more than we're accustomed to. But again, comfortably so, but with a little bit of a challenge. If we practice this, we will see that our capacity for breath itself will just naturally increase more and more. Rhythm is very important as well. If we were to analyze ourselves, and there have actually been experiments where people have analyzed people's breathing. In, again, modernity, people tend to breathe in a very non-rhythmic sort of way. Just kind of in a, again, non-rhythmic, chaotic sort of way. Breathing, like all of the cycles of nature, should be a rhythm. A very nice, very calming rhythm. Okay? These are just some of the fundamentals of simply breathing that we are meant to cultivate and practice. What I was thinking we would do is just, again, for about 2 minutes, everyone's sitting comfortably. I want us all to breathe, but trying to keep in mind these principles that I mentioned. Breathing in a rhythmic way, being aware of that. Okay? Being aware of trying to breathe in a little bit deeper than we ordinarily do. Trying to expel a little bit more of the air that we ordinarily do. Okay? Trying to breathe from the belly on up. Trying to make sure that we fill the belly, etc. And like this, just as a little bit of a practice. All right? And then from there we'll go on to more practice. But let's just do this. We can close our eyes. And this is simple breath concentration, which is the beginning of pranayama. Focus. Focus on the breath. what is one of the keys to really all spirituality, but certainly yoga? Awareness. Awareness. Awareness of everything. Awareness of everything that is happening with us, both externally and internally, and especially when it comes to the internal. Often we're not aware, but we cultivate that through nice little practices like this. Awareness of everything around us. Let me tell a little story, and it's actually a story that occurred to me when I was in India the last time I was there, which was many years ago. That was a very interesting experience that I had. This was 1986, and I was at my guru's ashram in Navadvip in West Bengal. And on this particular day, it was a very busy day because it was my guru's appearance day, his birthday, as we would say in the West. And many people were coming from throughout India for that celebration. And I remember I was there at the ashram, and I was outside in a large courtyard, and I was having a conversation with someone. We were just standing there, just speaking in the sun. And I had a very interesting experience. This was 1986. I must have been about 23 years old. I had this very interesting experience where, as I was speaking to my godbrother, this person who also was a disciple of my guru, I felt something behind me. So forceful that I think my physical body actually kind of lurched a little bit. And I felt this powerful force behind me. And immediately our conversation stopped, and I turned around and looked, and there was this Indian Swami. A very, very interesting man. He was dressed all in saffron, and he was walking toward me from behind. And he had, I think, 2 or 3 people with him who were walking behind him, trying to keep up with him. When I saw this man, I could see why I felt that, because this man had a force to him that was amazing. Number one, he looked like a bodybuilder. I mean, he had a chest like a barrel, and he walked like a bodybuilder. And this was a Swami. This was a Swami, gentle Swami. Oh, but he walked like someone who was powerful, physically powerful, but also energetically. And I just looked at this person, and he just walked right by. He didn't even look at me. He just kind of floated right by and just continued. And I turned back to my godbrother, and I said, "Who was that?" And I wish I could remember his name, but he said, "Oh, that's Swami so and so. He's our Gurudev's godbrother." I said, "Oh, really? Oh, why is he like that?" Those are like the only words I could get out. It's like, why is he like that? And my godbrother knew what I meant. Oh, you mean why does he have that force to him? Oh, yes. Well, the story is that he lived in the Himalayas for many years, high up in the Himalayas, and he did pranayama. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, wow, was he a bodybuilder too?" "No, just pranayama." An amazing thing, but apparently he was high up in the Himalayas where the air is perfect, where the air is very pure. And for many years he just practiced pranayama. And this made him the sort of person he was, who even physically was powerful. I mean, he looked like he could probably break a Toyota in half. But also, again, he just had that intangible force to him, such that I knew he was there before I even saw him. I just felt this force, that there was something behind me. Amazing thing. This is the nature of prana. In the case of someone like him, of course, most likely he probably practiced it for hours and hours a day, every day, 7 days a week, which is what the traditional yogis do, again, for years. We, of course, today don't have that luxury. We barely have enough time to talk about prana in half an hour, to speak of doing it for hours a day. But this kind of gives us a little bit of a glimpse of how powerful this is, this life force, and how wonderful it is to cultivate this. All right, very good. I want us to do one more simple pranayama exercise, and there are many of them, many of which we can't cover. But I'm going to be doing one of my favorites because of its simplicity and yet because of its effectiveness. Anuloma Viloma. if you do this exercise, especially try to do it with Ujjayi breathing, only because it's easier to keep track of precisely the processes going on because of the sound and because of the vibration. Okay, just a little pointer for you. All right, but now going on, Anuloma Viloma. This is another, again, simple but very effective form of pranayama. And this form of pranayama does several things, the primary one of which is inner balance. Again, making something complex very short. The way our internal energetic system works in accordance with our sushma, our subtle body, sushma sharira, is that energy flows in this kind of a motion. Okay? This is why, for example, in pranayama it's understood that the left nostril controls the right brain hemisphere, the right nostril controls the left brain hemisphere, etc. This is how the energy flows, is in this kind of direction. This being the case, very often for many of us, our internal energies are simply not balanced for one reason or another. There are a variety of reasons for why that would be the case. In some cases, something just as simple as having allergies and tending to breathe more through one nostril than the other. Thus, one hemisphere of the brain is more developed versus the other, so there's an imbalance. This Anuloma Viloma very specifically helps with this. And with a little bit of practice, you can actually feel it. You can actually begin to feel quite literally more balanced in your internal energies when you do this. And of course, with practice, with time, you experience this more and more. This Anuloma Viloma can be done itself as a sort of meditation, but as I said yesterday, mental meditation, not spiritual meditation, because it's working on the physical, on the mental, on the subtle level, but not the spiritual level. How much of a meditation it is, it depends on how much awareness we do it with. All right, so just a few pointers. The way that you do pranayama is you use the thumb and these fingers, you do not use the pointer. And this particular pranayama specifically involves closing the nostrils alternately. All right? This is actually a pretty simple form of pranayama, and even if you don't get it immediately, you will, pretty simply. This is how we begin. First, just breathing normally. Then, when we're ready to exhale, we begin by closing off the right nostril. Exhale through the left, inhale through the left. Then we close the left. Exhale through the right, inhale through the right, and repeat. Repeat, repeat. We just keep doing this. Taking your time, breathing normally, but again, trying to incorporate the little pointers that I told you about earlier. Breathing rhythmically, etc., deeply. After some time, the way that you end this is you end with the right nostril by, again, just breathing in. And then the way you end is, once you breathe in, you close off both nostrils. Hold the breath in a non-tense kind of way for just a few seconds, maybe 3 seconds. So basically, let me just show you what it looks like, how you end this. Breathing normally, so you breathe out, you breathe in. And then you just breathe normally. This is how you end Anuloma Viloma. And again, we start with breathing out. Some people teach to start by breathing in. Truthfully, it doesn't really matter that much. For practical reasons, I think it makes more sense to start with breathing out. All right? And we start with the left nostril. So again, that's all. Just sit comfortably. And we won't really bother with the silent breath concentration at first. We'll just go directly into this. When you've done an inhalation, close off the right nostril and begin by breathing out of the left and just continue. the very least peaceful, right? Very calming. Continue with this, and more than just calming, you will begin to feel balanced. Can't explain what that means as far as what it feels like, you'll just feel it. And you'll even describe it that way, that yes, I feel more balanced somehow. Your energies collectively will feel very much in harmony. All right. Two very, very quick little tips that I want to give. When doing pranayama, don't hold your arm out like that. You'll get tired very fast. That's why yogis do this. You press the arm into the body as you're doing pranayama. That way you don't get tired. You don't press it really hard because that'll make you tired too. But you just make sure it's next to the body, not out like this. You won't be able to do pranayama for long. That's the first thing. Second thing, if your nose is bothering you a little bit while doing pranayama, that's why they invented neti pots. Use a neti pot. It is miraculous. If you have any sort of nose problems, it helps tremendously.